Ladies and gentlemen, today, good morning, Gary, somewhere near Yuma, Arizona. Now, that is a place I drove through back in 1990, the winter of 1990, on my way to California. And I actually don't remember much about Arizona except that it was a big desert. And if you didn't carry enough water in whilst hiking, you didn't come out. And one of the biggest discoveries that I made about hiking in Arizona, besides that you need to carry an excessive amount of water, is that the places that are landmarks in Arizona, such as caves or like alcoves that are carved into the sandstone. Now, I lived in Sedona, Arizona. Those places that are supposed to be special spiritual rituals and where Indians lived 10,000 years ago, once you get into that cave system or alcove or overhang, the smell of urine is simply overwhelming to the degree that you can't stay in the cave long enough to look around what's inside the cave. Now, I didn't see a lot of debris, but there were some small wrappers and things like that. Candy wrappers and some small tops to cans, because that was when they still had the pop top cans on there. But the cave that I was in several caves I was in the Sedona, Arizona, was there was a tour company called Pink Jeep Tours or something like that, Pink Jeep Tour Guides. And I went along with one of those tours, and they brought us into a cave, and I walked in, and I was in there 15 seconds, and I walked out. It was probably 50 feet deep and 40 feet wide, and it was like it wasn't a cave where you went in more than 50 feet. That was it. But the smell of urine in that cave was amazing, because for three reasons. One, everybody pees in there for some reason. Well, because you're on the side of a cliff, it's not so easy to walk outside. You walk up a steep incline to get there. But once you're in there, the people pee, and it never rains in Arizona. You might get a half inch of rain in a whole year in Sedona, in Red Rock country. So you're talking about urine for 20 years of people. Oh, God, it was amazing. That's what I remember. Everything about Arizona is dry and as far as I'm concerned, the witches in Sedona, Arizona, and the supposed witches and warlocks in Arizona were another trippy thing, where they wear crystals on a chain around their neck, half the size of this bottle. Some of those people that believe themselves to be witches and warlocks in Arizona. So, Gary, I'm glad you're in Yuma, Arizona, and not in Sedona, Arizona. But my God, I have some really, really horrid memories of Sedona, Arizona. Now, let's see, smell. Yeah, it smelled like a truck stop. Okay, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, truck stops. Everybody urinates on the side of the road, except at a truck stop, you have free running air blowing around. Inside that cave, it hasn't rained in that cave in 2,000 years. So it's just urine oil. But I want to talk about what I want to talk about. Daisy went outside she's drying some laundry. She put it out on the ladder that we have. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today is I have to talk about Mr. Trump today, because I want you to know that although I think that Trump is just an extension of the Illuminati, a variation of the extension of the Illuminati. And not only do I think he's an extension of the Illuminati, but the hand signs, according to Illuminati hand signs and symbols, define what a person is thinking or his true nature. Hand signs. Okay, this is something I know about because they wanted me to teach hand signs back in the year 2000. So the the definitive nature of what's on a person's mind may not necessarily be what they are saying through the verbalization of their word phrases. Okay. And what most people don't understand, first of all, you guys think that I'm just some schlep carpenter / mechanic in the Philippines. My education is extensive when it comes to certain topic matters. Okay. I studied religion. I studied theology. I studied parapsychology. I was in a Zen Buddhist monastery for 3 years. And that my master only taught us about religion, theology, and the ancient cultures of Chinese, Japanese, Indian, Arabic, and all the way dating back to the pre-Christ era, even back to the Egyptians, because he was the first person to explain to me that the Jewish nomads were basically what is called slaves. But we're not going to go back that far in this dissertation. What I'm going to tell you is that a person's mindset, they may say one thing, but their mindset is something else altogether. Now, in that regards, Mr. Trump and Mr. Obama are equal. Now, I've explained this to you on many different occasions. We have something that people describe as the New World Order, but it's not a New World Order. There is no such thing as a New World Order. This order of entities, some call them jinn, some call them spirit entities, some call it God, some call it Satan, some call it Lucifer. The powers that control this world had a plan before the Great Pyramid was built, which is why the Great Pyramid is placed on the left side of the dollar bill. In brief, you read from left to right. So when you look at the back of a dollar bill, the left side is the Great Pyramid. That's the beginning. In the middle is the Ark of the Covenant, which I have proved over and over and over by putting out $50,000 monetary challenges to people, that the Ark of the Covenant is the entire green side of the dollar bill. I have proved it in my videos, but I have proved it in my book, aka Angels on the Ark by Michael Fazio. It's a non-fiction book. It's available by clicking the link on my homepage under the eagle through Amazon, which is 100% secure HTTP site, for $2.99. So if you want to argue with me, read the book for $3, buy the book, and then I will wager you any amount of money that you feel that you can lose that I am right. And then this challenge has been going on for 8 years now, and no one has ever taken my challenge, because everybody understands once they read my book or watch some of my videos, I can't be proven to be wrong. Some people say you can't prove a double negative or you can't prove a negative. That's a lot of nonsense. I have wagered 50,000 American dollars. So I am right, and anybody who wants to challenge me is wrong. I suggest you read my book and save you a lot of heartache, because no one can disprove what I just stated to you. I am right. The Ark of the Covenant is on the back of the dollar bill. Forensically speaking, there is no way on earth you could prove me wrong. Forensically speaking, a fingerprint needs 8 points out of a possible, myriad of points. Let's say 8 points is enough to prove pretty much beyond a shadow of a doubt of your fingerprint, of a fingerprint at a crime scene. 8 points of key placements that your fingerprint matches up with a partial print is enough to convict you in a court of law. 17, and it's your fingerprint. 17 points. Well, I could go through, and I do in the book, 30, 40, 50 points, depending on your perspective, that the Ark of the Covenant is the entire green side of the dollar bill. So digressing, the pyramid is the first part of the book of life, let's call it. Okay? That's where the story of what you call the New World Order begins. The middle of the storyline, now the pyramid is 12,000 years old. They say 4,000 years old because it conflicts with the Catholic Church's theory that God created the earth 4,644 years ago, whatever it is, some nonsensical number. They picked it out of a hat. So the pyramid can't be 12,000 years old because the church says the world is only 4,000 years old, and that includes 2,000 to the birth of Christ, and then 2,000, 4,000 before that. So it's really 6,000 years old. Okay, so that's what the church says. So the pyramid can't be 12,000 years old because it disproves what the church says. But so would proof of aliens visiting this planet prove that the church was a sanctimonious, hypocritical organization filled with pedophilia. Okay, that is in my book. I mentioned the pedophile Pope 237 times in the book Angels on the Ark by Michael Fazio. 237 times do I mention the pedophile poop, P-O-O-P. So moving past that and going back into the succession of the story of life, the Great Pyramid represents the beginning of recorded history as we know it, not the first civilization. There's been many civilizations much more advanced than us in the same place that you are standing now that have been destroyed. The government knows it, I know it, and a lot of people are coming into this understanding. My teachers, my masters knew it. They taught this stuff to me in a Zendo or in my philosophy classes. The philosophy / theology class I took by a man named Kevin, which I won't mention his last name, at St. John's University in New York. He taught religion and theology, took me to the side on the first night I was there and said, we have a private class at my house I'd like you to attend because you know more about religion and theology than I ever will based on your questions, or you have something to offer. Okay, even though Kevin taught at St. John's University, he asked me and the girl I was dating at the time to be his guest at his house for a special unit of people. About 6 to 8 people would show up once a week to talk about religion and theology. And I exposed what I knew about religion and theology to these people. And they were more interested in my philosophy than they were in Kevin's philosophy, because Kevin's philosophy was simple, straight up and down rhetoric through religious dogma. So you can't prove me wrong. The Ark of the Covenant's on the dollar bill. And now we're going to go to that segment of the central portion of verbal verbiage in history. That's the central portion of the book. Pyramid is the beginning. Christ representing the Ark of the Covenant. Also the Catholic Church at this point, because they've taken over the entity that we call God. Now they call it Lucifer. Satan, Lucifer, the Catholic Church has the Lucifer telescope. They have the most telescopes, the most advanced telescopes, and they hide a lot of stuff from you underneath the floors of the Vatican. And the last part of history is the right side of the dollar bill, which has to do with the end of the world. So the left seal with the pyramid, all those symbols, symbology, the first are representative of things that are of a living nature: water, trees, shrubs, grass, sky, rain, clouds, and of course the sun, the glory over the Great Pyramid. In the right side, it's not a glory over the eagle's head, it's a detonation, an implosion. I believe it's nuclear. I believe they're going to destroy the massive amounts of people with or via nuclear radiation. I am right. Anybody who doubts me is wrong. They're already doing it. Okay, we have San Onofre nuclear power plant in California. It's a complete disaster. You don't read about it. You don't hear about it. You don't see anything in the paper about it. But last month, I think it was, or the 14th of this month, they had a 100-ton canister that hung up while they were dropping it into a hole. For 1 hour, the crane operator that dropped it into the hole didn't notice that the canister didn't fall to the bottom, wasn't lowered to the bottom of a hole. Here you got a guy operating 150 or 200-ton crane, and he didn't notice that the wires went slack and 100 tons of nuclear waste, equivalent to that of Fukushima, was hanging on the lip of the entombment area by 1/4 of an inch. That's all in a newspaper article about San Onofre, almost catastrophic event that happened either on the 14th of August or the 14th of July. They don't want you to understand what's really going on in this world. And Mr. Trump and Mr. Obama are just two faces of the same coin. There is no difference between Mr. Trump and Mr. Obama. In the long run, what we call the New World Order is going full steam ahead with their agenda. All the subterfuge in between is not going to stop the New World Order from doing what they planned before the Great Pyramid was built. Digressing back to the right seal on the dollar bill, inside that seal, you'll see the eagle. Well, the eagle is a killing machine by definition in the Webster's 20th Unabridged Dictionary and the Encyclopedia Britannica. It attacks from the rear in a stealthy manner. That's one form of death. Another form of death are the 13 arrows. The arrows are projected by the bow or bow of olive branch. So you have a bow and arrows. If you turn the dollar bill upside down, what you have is an Indian-looking figure with a headdress with a bow and arrows, in his sinister claw, the arrows, and his dexter claw, the bow or bow of olive branch. Okay, this has been placed on the dollar bill to let you know that, well, it wasn't to let you know, it was to let the people that follow the ancient technology of this world how to communicate with one another before computers were invented and telephones and telegraphs. They needed a method to know who was who and at what stage or level of the ladder in the secret societies you were at. They utilized the dollar bill and the King James Bible for this such same reason as I just described. By taking the dollar bill and saying to someone in the beginning, in the book of Genesis, and the first 17 verses in the book of Genesis, they take the first verse of the Genesis and they say, where is the representation on the dollar bill of this first verse in Genesis? And someone will point to the pictograph on the dollar bill. Okay, where is the 14th verse of Genesis? And they'll point to another pictograph on the dollar bill in the left sphere or circle. Then they'll say, where are the foreign? Now you're moving up to a much higher level. I'm skipping through this really quick. This is like a crash course in pictographs and pictology. Okay, graphology. Okay, the pictographs represent the systematic representation of the words in the Bible. So where are the 4 and 20 elders? It took me 2 years to find the 4 and 20 elders on the Bible. The 4 and 20 elders worship the Lord God both day and night and are never hidden from his sight. Well, they exist, and I put it in my book. And that's why nobody in this world is allowing my videos or my words to become world-renowned and global. Okay, the Catholic Church knows exactly who I am. The government knows exactly who I am. And Google algorithms is proving it day after day after day by censoring my channel to the degree that a week will go by and my monetary gains will be somewhere between 20 cents on the dollar up on one day, on a Monday, and then to the next Monday, they won't vary more than 45 cents up or down. So that's impossible. Monday through Sunday, everybody has a different schedule, and yet Google flatlines me for the last 3 months on my monetary earnings. And it's not enough to buy a cup of coffee and a donut at any Dunkin' Donut shop. Forget about Starbucks. So the last phase of history is the right seal on the dollar bill. This is where Mr. Obama and Mr. Trump, although you think they are different entities, they are the same entity with the same plan, but they're going about it a different way. I utilize the terminology when you're going up 95 in America, which goes from Homestead at the top of the Florida Keys to Maine. 95 is a straight route. Well, Mr. Obama, if the New World Order was in Maine, Mr. Obama went straight up 95, nonstop. He was headed towards globalization with Mrs. Clinton and Dick Cheney and George Bush and all the rest of those people. They were headed in a straight line. But the people got tired of that and they were afraid of a revolt because of weapons in America. So they placed Mr. Trump in office. Why did they put him in office? Because he represents the people in oh so many ways. He's a working man. He's always been a working man. But Mr. Trump's hand signs betray his true nature. In almost every video, every documentary, every filming of Mr. Trump, he always projects, I have to put you down, Mr. Trump. No, Michael Fazio, don't put Mr. Trump down. He's my buddy. I know you're all a bunch of friends in the background, and you more in the background than a lot of other people, Mr. Obama. Don't say things like that about me, Michael Fazio. I get embarrassed. You don't get embarrassed about nothing, Mr. Obama. So here is the basic Illuminati hand sign. Okay, you watch Mr. Trump, you watch Angela Merkel, you watch Vladimir Putin, you watch Dick Cheney, you watch the Fox News team, the man